Hey friend, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com, and today I want to beg you, please don't switch your DAW. It will only ruin your recordings.
Huh?
Okay, what is Graham talking about? Why would switching to a different piece of recording or mixing software hurt, ruin, whatever your recordings or mixes? Isn't that just hyperbole? Isn't that just clickbait? No. Let me give you some context. As a guy that makes videos and writes articles on home recording all the time and has been for the last almost 8 years, I get a lot of questions from brand new people to people who've been doing this for 10, 20 years. And I see a lot of reoccurring themes in these questions. And one of the largest ones is A, which piece of software should I use? Which DAW should I use? Or number two, alphabet, numbers, mixing metaphors. Sorry. If I have this DAW, should I switch to this DAW because I've heard that it's better or sounds better or can do different things? What do you think? Should I switch? Not switch? I find this question fascinating. Fascinating because as someone who has to do marketing for his own business, this is a question that's really the product of good marketing. And I have a lot of friends that market these products. I have friends that make DAWs, and I'm not bagging on them because they have to make a living and they make great products. But it's more of a bag on us, the consumer, that we are so swayed by the marketing that somehow, if we would switch from our current piece of software that we're using to record our music to a different piece of software, that maybe our recordings and mixes would be better. Okay, we need to snuff this out real quick from the get-go, and then I want to give you some advice. First of all, if you believe that changing to a different piece of software, a different DAW will give you a better recording or a mix, then you're already believing the overall myth, which is gear is the solution. Gear can be software as well. That myth is if I only had XYZ product, then my recordings or mixes would be better. And if you've watched any video of mine or read any article of mine, then you know that I harp on this a lot because it's just a myth. It's not true, and it's a waste of your time and unfortunately a waste of your money. So I don't want you to believe that gear is the solution or different gear, because it's not. You are. You are the bottleneck. I'm the bottleneck. Changing your DAW, changing your microphones, changing your plugins isn't going to make any difference. It's just going to make it different. Not better, different. You need to get better if you want better recordings or mixes, but we know this. I talk about it a lot. The DAW, though, is an interesting one because we feel like since that is the thing that touches everything, it's the software we record into, doesn't matter what microphones we use, it all goes in there. It's the software we mix on, so the way it does mixing, its engine, its math underneath the hood, all that affects our audio, and it's what we stare at all day. Okay, you look at the GUI, you see it all day long, and so you spend a lot of time with it. It affects the whole process. So it's like the one modern piece of gear that we're like, man, am I using the right piece of software? And this has started for years because there's a piece of software called Pro Tools, which I happen to use, that it still is, but for sure was the most dominant piece of software on the market because it was one of the only games in town. They created a great solution for recording through your computer that didn't exist 15, 20, 30 years ago. They were the main game in town for a long, long time. And that's why so many studios use and have used Pro Tools. Okay. There are now so many more options available to you that are, newsflash, just as good as Pro Tools, just as professional as Pro Tools. I have friends in this industry that are making records that are hits and on the radio on Ableton Live, Cakewalk Sonar, Reason, Logic from Apple, GarageBand from Apple, which is the free DAW on your Mac laptop or computer, Studio One from Presonus, Reaper, and of course Pro Tools, and the list goes on. All of those platforms are being used by people that I know, and they're making tracks that you're hearing on the radio or are on sync on movies or TV shows or commercials. Clearly they work. Clearly they're professional. Clearly they get the job done. It doesn't matter if you have Pro Tools or not anymore. That's one myth that's still out there too. So let's put that to bed. But a lot of you aren't on Pro Tools. You're on something and you're looking at something else. And you're wondering if you should switch, or you're on Pro Tools and wondering if you should switch to something else, or should you switch to Pro Tools or Studio One or Reaper? Let's talk about why switching DAWs is one of the dumbest things that you could do. First of all, DAWs take a long time to learn. They're cumbersome. There are keyboard shortcuts you need to learn. There are menus you need to learn. You have to understand the way the signal flow happens in that software, and it's different from every piece of software. They, at the very least, look dramatically different, but a lot of times they operate differently. Even though you can get the same results and you can get the same quality of results, the way it functions is different from software to software. And this just takes time to learn. So if you have put in time learning one piece of software, if you abandon that software for another platform, guess what? You are going to have to start over again, learning that whole platform from scratch before you can even get into the real music making. You don't even know how to do some of the basic things in that software. Now, granted, there's a lot of homogeneity on the pieces of software, so they can operate and look very similar, and they're blending more and more each day. But trust it from someone who owns about 7 DAWs. If I go from Pro Tools to Logic, even the meters don't represent audio in the same way. And I have to be very careful that what I'm looking at in the meters in Logic is what I think it is, because it looks very different than in Pro Tools. And I could be recording a much hotter or much quieter signal than I like because the meters themselves read differently. So there is a steep learning curve to any piece of software, and you probably know that. So switching to another software involves a new learning curve all over again. This is so pointless because this has no bearing on your ability to make great sounding music. It literally is just a time waste. You literally are taking a step backwards before you can even improve your music, because you have to take the time to learn the software just to be able to do what you used to be able to do in your other software. It won't be any better, but it's taking you more time to get back to where you were. That's like literally walking in a circle, wasting a lot of effort, and then arriving in the same place you were before. Unless you've got time to kill and you just like learning new stuff and you don't mind wasting time and not improving, then switching DAWs is so pointless because it puts you back in time and you haven't gained anything. This is like going back 20 years, 30 years, and telling someone who works on an SSL console, they record on an SSL, they mix on an SSL, they've invested lots of money to purchase and maintain and cool with their AC units, their SSL. It's like telling that person that, dude, Neve consoles sound better, way better, fatter low end, fatter drums. You got to be mixing on a Neve, bro. And it's like telling that person to abandon all the money, all the time, and all the experience that they have on that SSL to then switch over to a nice Neve console, which would be a great console also. Lots of great records that I love are made on Neves. But guess what? Lots of great records that I love are made on SSLs. I wonder if it doesn't matter which console you use. Bing! But the poor person that's going from the SSL to the Neve has lost money, because you're never going to recoup your cost on that 100%. But most importantly, time and experience, because if you've been working on one console, you know where the EQs are. You know, if you push that top shelf EQ on the SSL, what it really does to the audio. You know what the compressor does and how fast or slow that attack is. You know the bus compressor. If you move over to a Neve, you don't know what it feels like to push that 1073 EQ on there, or even how the preamps react to stuff. Like, it's going to take time to learn that console. Yes, you can learn it, and yes, you'll be able to get great results, but you're going backwards just to get to a different sounding console. That's it, really, a different sounding console. No one in their right mind would do that. They would give up so much to switch. So you got to think about your DAW as a console. Why, if I've learned the Pro Tools console over 15 plus years, and I know it like the back of my hand, why would I switch to the Reaper console or the Studio One console or the Logic console or the Ableton Live console or fill in the blank console? I'm already familiar with this console and it works. And we've already established that the console or the DAW is not what gets you a good recording or mix. It's you. It's me. So switching would only set me back. It makes no sense. Now let's talk about briefly what does make an impact on your recordings or mixes. You getting better at recording and mixing specifically. Let's talk about just mixing throughout the recording, because that's the most obvious, yet it's the hardest one. But many people are so focused on the DAW for a mixing standpoint. Let's just take mixing. What makes a good mix? Balance. That's all here, how you hear things and balancing it. EQ, compression, automation, sweetening, all these basic things that you can do on every single DAW, because they all come with volume faders, EQ, a compressor, the ability to do automation, reverbs, delays. Every DAW has that. And that's what you need to get good at to get good mixes. Now, of course, Different DAWs have different workflows, maybe unique sounds that you might prefer. Pick a platform that inspires you, that you like to look at all day, that makes sense to you, that you like the plugins that come with it. Because if you have a preference, then pick the one that you like and stick with it. All I'm asking you to do is stick with something. Once you've picked one, stick with it. Get your chops up to speed on that platform. Be the best at that software. Be fast, know the key commands, be able to do it with your eyes closed so that you can move past the tool and focus on the music. That's how you'll get ahead in your career. That's how you'll make your song sound better. Very, very important. Now, if you're brand new and you don't know what software to pick, you don't know which DAW is the right one for you, I want to help you out. I have put together a home studio gear guide. It's absolutely free. It literally is recommendations on everything you need in your home studio: microphones, audio interfaces, speakers, and DAWs or software, and on different budgets. To grab the gear guide, just go to studiogearguide.com. Link here in the video and in the description box. Links are right there directly to the products. You don't have to buy them through there. I don't have any affiliate links through that. I don't make any money off of these things. I literally put together a list of things because people have been asking me for 7 years and I refuse to do it. But I finally put it together because it will help you out. At least go check out what I recommend. These are all products that I either own currently, have used, or they're from brands that I know personally and I trust what they make. So you can bank on them being good choices and you can pick what fits within your budget. But at the end of the day, my friend, I beg of you, please pick a piece of software and stick with it. Move on to the things that actually will make a difference in your recordings or mixes, and that's improving your craft and improving yourself. That's it for today. Leave me a comment. Let me know, which DAW do you prefer? Why do you like it? How long have you used it? Which DAW, how long have you used it? I want to see some power users here. I want to see people who have used a platform for a long, long time. The more years you put into the software, the more you should just hang in there because you have developed an experience with that piece of software. There's little point in moving. Get your home studio gear guide, subscribe to these videos. If you find them helpful, go make some music and stop debating which software is better. I'm looking at you. Don't switch. Stick with what you have.